Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabados of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service and jbiztechvalley.com.
You know, Rabbi, we like to have people from law enforcement community on the program, and today we have the police chief of the town of Guilderland, Carol Lawlor, and it's a real pleasure to have you here, Carol. Thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you for asking me.
And how are things going in Guilderland in terms of law, in terms of crime, and is it a safe town pretty much?
Guilderland is a very safe town. It's quiet. We do have our periods where it's very busy, but we are able to handle it, and I'd say it's a very safe town.
How many officers do you have on the force?
We have 35 officers.
Do you need more?
Always.
Always.
But we've been very fortunate with the current town board. And town supervisor. He has given us what I've asked for. I understand during these economic times, things aren't easy to hire people. So.
Well, what would be a full force for you?
Well, this is the most we've ever had.
Uh-huh.
The police department is only a little over 40 years old.
Okay.
Started with 6 people, so we've got 35 now. It would be nice to have 5 more people, 6 more people, but...
Now, is the Colony Center, I don't know where the border
No,
is.
it's Crossgates.
Crossgates
Mall.
is your on your head over
Yes,
there.
it is.
Well, I'm just saying, there is probably a lot of people shoplifting. I mean...
Crossgates is very busy, but we don't have a lot of violent crimes there. We have larcenies and other type of financial crimes, but we've been very fortunate not to have a lot of violent crime there.
And SUNY Albany, I think
Part of that.
one quad is
Yes,
in your...
one quad is in Guilderland.
1.5 or something.
Right.
I went to SUNY, I lived on Dutch Quad, and I remember when there was voting, some
Yes.
people could vote in the city, some people could vote in Guilderland, and
Really?
Indian Quad was all in Guilderland.
So what was the problem with the police? I mean, when are you called in? Oh, Dutch Quad, okay, that's you. And
The university police handles all the issues on campus.
And they're
what if
under
there's
the...
something violent? I mean, can they arrest people?
Oh, yes, they have full
Really? I
police
didn't know
powers.
that.
Yes.
Well, they're under the auspices now of the state police, I believe, the university police.
I'm not exactly sure, but they have full
They do
police
their own thing,
powers.
so you never go on to SUNY.
Occasionally they'll ask for our backup, and we do too if we have something going on Fuller Road or something where they're nearby. But we have a great relationship with the SUNY police.
How long have you been on the force?
36 years.
36 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you remember when the maniac went into the lecture center and started shooting up the place or whatever?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was 20 years ago. maybe?
Yeah, plus, 93, I guess it
Where was
was.
this one? Tell the audience, because I don't remember
Yeah,
either.
why don't you? I forgot the guy's name.
It was a long time ago. It was a very unfortunate incident.
Right,
He was mentally ill, and he I believe eventually wound up taking his own life.
Mm-hmm.
But he went in with a gun and started, I believe, shooting up the classroom. They were able to get everyone out safely.
In SUNY, you mean.
Right. No one was
I
hurt,
remember that.
but there was-
And were you on the camp? Was the Guilderland police force called in to be on campus?
they were. I was not there. It was my day off, so I wasn't there.
Lucky
But, I want to say, of course you're a female, all our audience can see that, but you don't look like the Western, cowboy and Western, the sheriff with his, you look too nice. I don't know if that's an insult to you because you're the police chief over here.
It's a compliment.
You look like a friendly person. I mean, it's just the interesting makeup of what a police woman, if that's the proper name, or a chief. I mean, you don't have a police officer has to be like a rough and tough and beating up these criminals. I guess that's my image, and maybe it's a lot of the viewers' image. But you look like a nice person. If I don't say, you see a tough, John Wayne. Oh man, he's going to be the sheriff of the town, and you don't look like your typical,
Thank you. I've always tried for that. This is a lot more powerful than any muscle that you can use, as far as I'm concerned. Talking to people and be able to calm down. Calm is contagious. So the calmer you will remain, the calmer hopefully everybody else remains. There's times that that doesn't work, but I like to rely first on trying to reason with people.
To keep your emotions in check is the best thing.
Exactly.
Do you ever go like in private and go, "Arr!"
I'm a pretty low-key person.
You are.
Not a lot gets to me, so I'm
Okay.
lucky that way. I inherited that from my mother and father, so I try to keep it that way, both in my personal life and professional life.
I inherited that from my parents, so it was like, that's why my emotions come out, and what you see is what you get. And I guess your way is more successful because you're the chief.
It all depends. There's always a time for that.
I'm just an interviewer.
Investigative reporter, sometimes you got to be a little bit tough. And, these guys are sometimes
Come on, you
tough.
really mean that? No, that's what
They do.
What
You
I-
have to be a little tough.
It's interesting about the police force. We have controversies in this area and around the country about when to use tasers, when to use force. What do you tell your officer? What's the protocol in the town of Guilderland?
We do carry tasers. Our officers are highly trained in when to use them and when not to use them. There's a continuum of force that they have to follow. We've never. I don't think we've ever had a bad taser incident. We don't use them. I will bet probably no more than 6 or 8 times a year. We don't usually run into that type of person, but when they have to be used, it does stop the situation completely. Mm-hmm. And there's pepper spray. When I started, there was only nightsticks. Your first line of defense was a nightstick. Doesn't cause the damage that a nightstick causes, and it certainly doesn't cause the damage that a weapon will.
Well, you see that sometimes people can die from tasers. I mean, they could die from nightsticks hitting them in the head in the wrong
Right.
place also. So, are you looking to sort of fine-tune your process based on what other incidents recently have occurred?
We always do. We look at our policies all the time to see if we can improve them. And we have a training officer who's always talking with other agencies, finding out if there's anything else that we can do to update our policies.
Mm-hmm. And do you, when is an appropriate time to use a taser? Is it when someone's, is told to get down on the ground and then they don't listen, or they're belligerent towards officers, or?
When you can't get control of a person, if a person is about to hurt himself or hurt another person,
Yeah.
and you can't gain control, and sometimes that happens. Lately, for us, it's been drug-induced,
Well,
where
that's
people
what I
are
was-
uncontrollable, and for their own safety, for the officer's safety, for bystanders' safety, they are used.
I was going to get to that because we've heard from several law enforcement officials who've been here that heroin is a big problem.
Yeah, that's what's one of the bigger things that we always
Around-
hear about.
Around
Heroin
the
is a
whole
huge
region.
problem.
What's this level of use in the town of Guilderland? Do you find heroin being used in the high schools, middle schools, or sort of just recreationally, outside of the school system?
I would not be being truthful if I said that it wasn't in our schools. It is in our schools, not to the level where it's a constant threatening problem. We have. What disturbed me the most was so far this year, as in the middle of the summer, we had 12 heroin overdoses that resulted in death
In the town?
in the town.
Wow.
And at that point, we applied for and received a grant from the Attorney General's office for every officer to begin carrying Narcan, naloxone, which is the reversal. And we received that. We were the first in the state to get it, and we received it, and our officers have been carrying it. The police department is also in charge of the paramedics and the EMS system, so they've been carrying it for a while. But
So each officer is an EMT? You have to be an EMT to do the Narcan?
no, you have to be trained in the Narcan, but by our medical director. But no, they are not EMTs. But the paramedics are different from the police, but they fall under the police department auspices. So they have been carrying Narcan for a long time. But it was time to put the people who were there first,
Mm-hmm.
give them the equipment to hopefully reduce or counteract a heroin overdose.
Is that the biggest drug problem now, or is it still marijuana? Is that still the gateway drug? Is that
Marijuana is there, certainly. Prescription drugs
Oxycodone.
Yes, are an issue.
Yeah.
Um,
And you just tolerate it? I mean, do you just, there's nothing really you can do, I mean, in terms
Well, we have officers in the schools. We have had SRO for many years now.
of the school resource officer?
Yes, school resource officer, and we do a lot of programs in schools. We try to educate because I believe that that is the first step in preventing these situations before they get out of control. We do as early as elementary school. We're in the school districts, and I think that that is the answer, part of the answer to keeping it under control.
Well, on that
Yeah.
point, the big issue nowadays is always one of the hot issues, legalized marijuana, and even a lot of people, and again, I'm Orthodox, and you would think people are traditional conservative views, which for the most part they are, the people that are come by congregation. But I was very surprised that they say, well, Rabbi, we should really legalize everything. And this would take the criminals away. I don't know, I'm still making up my mind about it, because usually I'm totally against drugs, to say the least. And but then people are arguing with me. I don't know how you feel about this. Maybe it wouldn't take away the criminality of all these drugs if they allowed it. I mean, that's the counter argument. I'm not saying I agree with it at all, but I'm always open-minded. But
He's arguing with himself.
I'm a good Jewish rabbi over here at the Talmudic logic, trying to figure it out. I mean, just saying it'd be interesting, how you feel it. Maybe let it be legal, and you won't have to deal with the illegality of anything.
I'm absolutely opposed to legalizing drugs. It's just too dangerous. There would be a lack of control. At least now we have some control over the situation. I'm afraid that it would open it up to young people, where now, when people are afraid of getting in trouble with the law, that's a big deterrent. It's sort of like with driving while intoxicated. People are now afraid to drive while they're intoxicated. That's a great thing. It improves the safety on our roads, and I think it's because there's been such a crackdown and so well enforced, especially in this area.
Did you see the beer commercial with the dog and the owner's playing with the dog, and then the owner says, "Oh, I'll be back," and you see him go out with his friends and playing and drinking with his friends, and then and the dog is sitting there. They clip back to the dog in the house and waiting for his master to come home, and his good friend, and then all of a sudden the door opens and it's the owner, it's the master, and he says, "Oh, I stayed over at my friend's house. I didn't drive, and now I'm, because the dog was worried and looking at the door and just whimpering." And then all of a sudden, the owner comes in and says, "Oh, I stayed at my friend's house." I mean, it was a very powerful.
I haven't seen it.
Very powerful beer commercial, and when they want to do a good commercial, they know how to do a tearjerker of a commercial in 30 seconds.
It sounds great. It's a wonderful idea.
So, but anyway, I was going to ask you about casinos. Do you think if there's a casino in Rensselaer County or Schenectady County that would impact crime with Guilderland, or is it too far away?
I think it's probably too far away. I know that it'll certainly impact the area that goes in. I'm not sure what the crime rate, what happens to the crime rate, but I certainly know that the traffic becomes a problem, and you do have problems that go with casinos.
And what's your position? Do you personally enjoy casinos, or do you just stay away from Turning Stone and
I stay away only because I never win. I mean, I just can't win. So I learned a long time ago I might as well throw $20 out the car window rather than go to a casino. I like the restaurants. They have some good restaurants, but
Right.
I don't go.
So do you think casinos are a bad influence on society, or are there any redeeming qualities?
I think it's a source of entertainment for people. Like anything, you have people who become addicted to it. I think gambling is certainly, can be an addiction. It's like, a bar opening in your neighborhood. If someone stops by and has a beer after work, that's one thing. But if someone stays, is there 7 days a week for hours on end, neglecting her or his family, that's another thing. So I do think they have a place, a source of entertainment. not my entertainment, but, you know.
Yeah, I think the rabbi would hope that the religion would be addictive, and
People come every day to.
you wouldn't need a religious anonymous or something. So you know, there's a building called Shabbos House on Fuller Road. Are you familiar with?
I know of it, yes.
You know
It's a
of
Jewish
it.
synagogue. It's a Jewish meeting place for students on SUNY.
Yeah, they come and I don't know if you've been inside or had any interaction just to see and to.
No, I haven't
No?
been inside.
Well, they should. I'll tell them to invite you.
I would love to go. I would accept their invitation.
You know, every time an officer comes in and I want to scatter everyone, I say immigration. But anyway, that's what's your biggest issue in Guilderland that you really are struggling with? The biggest challenge that you have?
Again, I would go back to drug issues.
Really?
And it's, I don't want to give the impression that it's huge, but right now, it's something that's really on the front burner. You have children involved, you know, families involved. It knows no borders. It knows no economic borders. I have concerns about domestic violence. That too has no borders. You don't know, you know, it's not one particular group of people. It's all over. So those are all what I think is community-oriented issues. We don't have, as far as traffic and traffic safety, we have wonderful officers out there working every day for people's safety. That's a more hands-on type issue that we can always put extra police officers on to go out and write tickets and arrest DWIs, but the societal issues are difficult.
Do you have a situation in Guilderland like Albany has where they have community policing, but they also have their laptops, the police officers have laptops in the car, and they really don't have to go to the office to file their reports and make out the incident reports, but they can do it right from their car. So, you know, when an incident happens, they're right there. They're not leaving from the station.
Yes.
That's still.
We have laptops in the cars. They do all their work. They write their tickets. Accident reports all comes out of the computers.
So when someone sees a police officer's car and a police officer sitting in a parking lot or a side road, they shouldn't think that they're goofing off. They're just doing
their work.
They're doing their work so they could be ready and closer to an incident if
That's
it
right.
happens. So
Yes.
I just want to make that clear that, you know, because that's what happened in Albany. People will always say, "Oh, look at that! They're hiding and they're
Playing a game on the
sleeping,"
computer,
you know, or
like
something.
that,
But
yeah.
I want people to know that they're really doing work. And
Their
they're really-
office is in their car.
Yeah.
And we do encourage them to stay out for their entire shift and, you know, only return to the station at the end of their tour.
Is that a game changer for law enforcement?
You know, it's wonderful. They have everything at their fingertips. It's the problem with everything is so expensive nowadays. So in order to outfit a police car, you know, on top of the cost of a police car, it's, you know, $9,000 or $10,000 to put everything in.
By the time you're done with the computer and all that.
Right, and all the wiring and everything that has to go in, and everyone has suffered as far as, you know, budgets are concerned, and the police are no different. And it's tough to come up with money sometimes.
Well, you don't have the police cars that you had when Adam 12 was made in the 1970s. You know,
That's
so
true.
that's for sure.
That's true.
You have to deal with the budget. I mean, they come to you. I don't know what's the process. City Hall says, "All right, you know, this you got X amount," and then you have to look over the budget. Hey, how about a little bit more? You know, because of this and that. Is that on your head? I mean, is
Yes,
that
we
your-
do the budget.
So you have to figure everything.
We figure it
what's
out,
gonna
and
come.
sometimes it gets sent back to us and say, figure it out again. You know, but like I said, it's been very good in the past couple of years. We do always watch the taxpayers' money, and but things have gotten a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. And what's the budget for the police?
For the police, it's $4.5 million.
$4.5 million.
Yes.
So how much does an officer earn per, you know, in the beginning and, you know, I mean,
Basic pay.
without overtime?
Without overtime, I think they started about $40,000 And then there's a very big bump after their first year to make sure that, when they're off probation, and I think it goes to 52. And then every year after that, they get up
A
to.
little bit more. Isn't there I'm from Delmar, Bethlehem, and then I saw in the Spotlight newspaper they're trying to combine services, or I'm mistaken over here.
No, there's a lot of talk about combining services. As a matter of fact, we're meeting with Bethlehem next week about maybe combining some communication services for Bethlehem and Guilderland. I don't know how that will turn out, but
I mean, one person 911 from will have this one person between Guilderland and Bethlehem. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure how they're going to work, how it's going to work, because this is our first meeting. It would be nothing like changing venues as far as where communications is in Guilderland or Bethlehem. It's very expensive to do that. But it would possibly do rollover calls where if one agency is very busy, instead of calling somebody in on overtime, the other agency can start picking up phone calls. We dispatch the same way. They're all trained the same way. So we're trying to figure out ways that maybe we can dispatch for one another when places get busy to cut maybe down on overtime costs.
Well, couldn't all the police agencies in each of the cities and towns go through the sheriff's office, and then the sheriff's office dispatches to the local police?
Not right now, they can't.
No.
That's how it is, I believe, in Onondaga County,
But
where they have a
wouldn't that
central.
be a synergy of services? Or,
It would be a combination of services.
that might be an idea.
Might be an idea.
You could take it back.
It's hard. It costs a lot of money. You lose, as far as I'm concerned, what you might lose is the familiarity with the area that you're working. Your dispatchers know their area. They know their fire departments and ambulances. So
People have done that with, Mark's our reporter, but with school districts, and they say, well, why don't you combine, you can have one school superintendent for, combining a lot of services, not only police, but school, and people are just against it. They want that local feeling for their schools and for their police department. I know I'm not advocating either way, but it seems this is the attitude of many people.
But when you talk about, they want to know their EMT or they want to know their other, first responders, it's not a social call. I mean, everyone has their way of doing, a professional way of doing it. They're all trained to, what their parts are.
I agree with that. And again, it's just, when you call 911 in Guilderland and you get a dispatcher who knows exactly where you are. And these are all things that could be learned. I don't know how it's going. There was a study done a few years ago about it, and I think the county is now dispatching for a couple different agencies. But there are very large agencies. Albany PD and Colony are very large agencies, so I don't think it's right now is possible, but you never know in the future.
Never know. Let me ask you, when I was talking about officer salaries and stuff, and I asked this to everyone who comes on, and it's all public information, so I'm not asking out of turn, but what's your salary?
$102,000.
Okay, and you don't get overtime?
I don't get overtime.
That's
no
it.
overtime.
Okay, you're capped at 102.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Is that consummate to pretty much, we've had so many police departments, like Mark says, and mayors and town supervisors who really covered the whole capital district, but is that consummate? Bethlehem, we've been talking to many people. That's why I brought out even Bethlehem. Bethlehem and Guilderland are almost like sister cities. Not like Colony is super big, but I'm just saying they have the same kind of population. Is that consummate?
It is. I think it's a little bit lower than other ones. And again, part of it is because even though it's 40 plus years old, it's a fairly new police department. So, it's some of those chiefs positions have been in place for 80 or 90 years. Not the people filling those chiefs positions, but the salaries are a little bit different.
Yeah.
thinking of the old man with the cane, with the sheriff's hat.
Yeah.
That was a strange picture you just said, not the same person. So when you, do you ever, when you hear that there's a real problem out on the street, do you ever get out to the scene? Do you ever go out on the scene?
Yes.
And what would make it mean your attention to a certain situation?
I I like to be part of what they're doing out there. I don't sit in my office all the time. I am stuck in the office quite a bit. We've had bad accidents, gun calls, people with gun calls, where they're going to need more supervision. I do have people, lieutenant and the captain underneath me who are very well trained in that. So, a lot of times they will take control of the situation, but I do go out.
How many years have you been chief?
6.
6 years.
Yes.
And how old are you?
57.
Okay,
do
so
you get
you're
to
not
the-
retiring anytime soon, is what
I
I'm...
don't,
55.
I could have retired 16 years ago because we have 20-year retirement, but I like my job and I waited a long time to get it, so I'll stay for a few more years.
Well, that's wonderful. So
Well,
no,
how
I
do you
really
get that
happy
job?
about
That would be an interesting question. I mean, a board of electors or the mayor appoints you?
The town
and-
supervisor.
And the
It's
town board.
It's just a total appointment?
But you have to be on the civil service list. I took a civil service test. For every promotion that I've had, it's a civil service test and appointment. But the chiefs, it's about 2 years.
So the town you're just hired according to the whims of the town supervisor, like, God forbid, but just tomorrow he could say.
No,
I got-
because I'm civil service.
So there's a time and
Oh, that's
contract? I
okay.
mean,
No, it's
You serve at the pleasure of the town board, or
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
well, if they can't just fire me for no reason.
it's got to be
It's a
for
civil
cause?
service exam, so you're protected by civil service. But so it couldn't be on a whim. If it was
But
an
let's say
issue.
you wanted to continue 20 more years, and you're doing a good job, and since you are doing a good job, no one could stop you? I mean, it's a hard
I
question.
suppose not, but I have to be able. you have to be able to. I
Carry out your
qualified
duties,
twice a year with a weapon. I have to be able to do what the other people do. So I would hope in 20 years I won't be out on the range. But
Yeah. I'm just
so
saying
there
it's
are some.
interesting, just
I-
saying
I
the
think
kind of
he's-
job description.
I think another way of saying it is, what happened to your predecessor, and did he just retire, or did you replace him, and was he let go?
Well,
I don't remember who your predecessor was.
Chief Murley. It was he had some issues, and
Yeah,
he
they
had
go.
to leave.
He had he, they
He
for-
retired.
he retired. They forced him to step down. Maybe I don't know how that worked.
I'm not sure exactly
Okay.
how it worked.
Okay, all right. But I wanted to, what I wanted to ask you was, in some of the cities, the mayors have appointed commissioners to go along with the police to be in the city, on the hierarchy, and they have a police chief, and they have a commissioner.
Right.
Now, in Schenectady, they have a commissioner of public safety. And in Troy, they used to have a commissioner of police, along with a police chief. So it's never been, that just seems like another layer of government,
Right.
That unnecessary. I think the commissioner of public safety in Schenectady works better because it's the former state police superintendent, Wayne Bennett, and he's, he knows the parameters and he can see everything. But it seems like you're overseeing all the different parts of first responders also.
Right.
So you
And a police chief would answer to a commissioner.
yeah. But-
So there is no commissioner in Guilderland, but we do have, we are paramedics and EMS and
Mhm.
police, animal control.
Animal control, yeah, that's important in Guilderland.
It is.
Because you got deer, you got raccoons, you got
And we
also
have,
pine bush.
I think we have the only municipal-owned shelter in the state of New York. We own a shelter, we run a shelter.
Do you want to own a shelter? Is that the business
Depends
you
on the
want to be
day.
in?
It's a nice service for town residents, because if your dog gets out and we find it, we bring it to the shelter and you come and retrieve it from our own shelter. And we have a lovely shelter and everybody's well taken care of.
Any chance of visiting the speed limits in town of Guilderland and adjusting them? New York City just lowered from 30 miles an hour to 25 is the official speed limit. No one does the speed
Most
limit.
town roads are 30 miles an hour now. We don't have anything to do with the state roads as
Right.
far as their speed limit or the county roads. There's been a few that they've been lowering.
But what if, in the town roads, are you looking at changing or adjusting the speed limits?
Not now, not right now, no.
Not right now.
They're pretty well, they
Because-
go the speed limit.
Because people, I know in Bethlehem and somewhat in Guilderland, is that, you know, you can go through various, you'd be on the same road, go through various iterations of a town road to a city road to a county road, and then the speed limit's changing, you might not know, but then you get the ticket. And what do you tell the judge? Oh, I didn't know I was,
I didn't see it.
you know.
Didn't see it. What I have noticed is when they do change the speed limits within Guilderland, they put signs up, they put flags up, they put lights up. And we generally, when we go out to enforce those new speed limits, it's pretty much warnings for the first few weeks, you know, because people, it's hard to get used to. You know, something you've traveled for 20 years goes from 45 to 35, and you see a police car right there.
That's going to be, I think we're out of time, Mark.
Okay.
So we want to wish you the best over here. We see you're doing a good job in Guilderland, so continue your good job and with good health.
Yes,
Thank
best
you
of
very much.
success. Yes.
Thank you.